What up, it's Praveen, aka Braille, and you're checking out Braille Sounds. And today, we're gonna take a look at this beauty behind me right here. It's gonna be a little bit of a Moog makeover. So we've got the Matriarch, and it's in a custom case made by Needham Woodworking. I'll put a link in the description. They make some amazing cases for eurorack, but they also have this beautiful piece of work behind me, which lets you sit your Matriarch in the case and gives you a ton of space above it for modules. And since the Matriarch is semi-modular, that can come in handy. So what I've decided to do is set this up with all my Moog semi-modulars and see what kind of mayhem we can get into. We've got the Matriarch, we've got the DFAM, and we've got the Moog Subharmonicon. We're gonna be using the Sinfonion like we usually do to set some chords, which everything's gonna be quantized around. We've also got the trusty 808 over here, and I'm gonna run this 808 through the Triptych. We've also got a module by Proswell. He was an IDM artist back in the day on Merc Records. I think it's the same label that Machine Drum released on. And he's been running a company called DSP Coffee. We're using one of their modules called Kali. It's a short delay module with a bunch of modulation, some crazy stuff you can do in there. So we're gonna run the DFAM through it and see what we can make. Everything's gonna be going through the Sinfonion at one point or another, so we're gonna be quantized against the chords. We're gonna be creating a chord progression, much like we do with the pressure points. We're going to use the Make Noise 0 control. We are going to loop that using the Shackmat Bishop's Miscellany. What that's gonna let us do is actually play chords with the Moog Matriarch. And the interesting thing is that we could take those 4 notes and actually patch them in right here to the Matriarch. And when we hit a single key on the Matriarch, it's going to play the chord exactly like we want it to sound. We've also got our Subharmonicon here. And because the sequencer and the Subharmonicon is such a critical part of this instrument, we're actually going to use this sequencer, pipe out the pitches from the sequencer here. We can see these 2 cables right here, the green ones. They're actually going into the Sinfonion so that the pitches from the Subharmonicon sequencer can be quantized against the chords we'll be playing with the Matriarch. And what that lets us do is then take those pitches and send them back to the Subharmonicon so that this crazy sequencer over here is always going to be spitting out notes that work with the chord progression we've come up with. This thing is an amazing semi-modular unit. Both this and the DFAM are probably the reason that I got into modular to begin with. They sort of taught me how to give up control. The polyrhythmic sequencer here, I actually have no idea how it's exactly working. It's adding up these different rhythms, but honestly, I prefer not having a full understanding of what's going on and just sort of feeling my way through it. The DFAM is a similar beast. The sequencer is much more straightforward, but you can get into some crazy places with some of the modulation that you can do over here. The DFAM is going to be going through the SSF Triptych, which is a distortion and delay module. You can make some nasty flanger type sounds. The Triptych is a short delay and distortion module. It's actually a collaboration between SSF, Steady State Fate, and Basic, who is an amazing artist. You can get things pretty gnarly with this, but especially with modulation. So we're going from the Triptych into the Kali. Like I said, it's another short delay module. This one's by Proswell's company, DSP Coffee. But the interesting thing here is, along with the delay, you actually get some modulation out. So we're gonna send the modulation back into the Triptych. That's gonna let us do some gnarly flanging and things like that. The Subharmonicon, on the other hand, is just going into the scan and pan for some panning, and then into beads for some optional effects. And we've got a little send going on, send return signal through the SSF auto dub. So we can smother this guy in reverb. We've got gliss, which right now is connected to the filter of the DFAM, but we might repatch that depending on what we want to do. So we've got the Matriarch playing a chord progression that we already came up with. We were using the 0 control to play it in and the Sinfonion as our chord palette. And then we are looping that progression using the Shackmat Bishop's Miscellany like we do in my modular chords video. Let's bring in some DFAM. So the DFAM's actually going through the SSF Triptych and then into the DSP Coffee Kali. So we got 2 short delays that we can have some fun with. The Kali is sending modulation back into the Triptych, so we can get some interesting modulation going there. Bring in the Subharmonicon. So So one interesting note about the Subharmonicon is that we're using the sequencer and running the notes from the sequencer in the Subharmonicon out to the Sinfonion. And what that lets us do is quantize the notes coming out of the Subharmonicon sequencer to the chords that the Matriarch's playing. And that's one of the ways you can kind of get the Subharmonicon under control. It's usually its own beast, but quantizing the notes that you're getting out of its sequencer lets you use its kind of esoteric functions, sort of give up control, like I say a lot, and still have it fit in something you're already making. So the Rhodes is actually going through our pedal chain from our pedal video. So it's going through the DBA Rooms for some reverb, then the Shallow Water by Fairfield Circuitry, which gives it that nice little warble, and then the Fairfield Circuitry Accountant, the compressor, squashes everything together. We've actually got the Subharmonicon going through these just for a little bit of reverb. So it's got this epic reverb, but really quiet in the background. Well, that was fun. I hope it gave you some ideas on how you might use your own semi-modular gear with your modular system. Let me know down in the comments what you all want to see, like and subscribe. And until next time, thanks for watching.